Hello. I put a
Hey,
spooky Halloween
y'all.
background.
Oh, I love it. Thank you. Huge shout
Yeah.
out for that. You do all the hard work for us. Everybody, it's another episode here at Cocktails and Crimes with my lovely co host, Ann, and our other co host, Elaine, who is going to be joining us here in a moment. We've had some technical difficulties tonight, so we had to run a little bit behind. So please forgive us. We're not perfect, okay? And I repel
Mhm.
technology. So
Yes. Actually, I think it runs from you. I'm not
it
sure.
does. My phone chargers run for me. Like, what are you talking
Yeah.
about? Like, I repel technology. So, hey guys, guess what? It's been a stressful day. It's been a stressful week. So the cocktail for tonight is going to be super simple, but it's potent. It is strong, and quite frankly, it is what we need to get through a case that is this fucking crazy. All right.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
tonight is going to be a strawberry and watermelon infused with honeysuckle vodka
Mm.
lemonade.
Mhm.
You will take your honeysuckle vodka. It's going to be 1.5 ounces, a quarter ounce of watermelon, a quarter ounce of simple syrup or lemon juice. I like lemon juice with mine. It makes it a little bit more tart. And 3 ounces of lemonade and a
Look,
quarter
now you
ounce
got a
of
comment
strawberry.
there.
And you shake it or you mix it in your shaker, strain it into your Tom Collins glass, or as we know, because Nikki is a reasonable alcoholic, you use a giant Yeti cup and you make a bigger drink than that. But that would be the recipe for people who are not alcoholics and,
Mhm.
want to be normal people.
That's so boring.
I
Anyway, you
know,
have a
right?
comment. You have a comment.
Oh, it's our super fan. Look at him.
Mhm. Yeah.
Bless his heart. He's the best. He's just like always here. He never goes
I
away.
know, right? I like
But
how our setup tonight's got spooky font and everything too.
I'm loving it. It's the
I
greatest. I
like
really kind
it.
of just want to stick with it forever now.
Mhm, right? I don't know if
I
it'll
just
let
want to
us, but
run with it.
maybe.
I just don't even
Yeah.
remember that I love it. So listen, I'm gonna tell you
Mm.
what, because we've had some technical difficulties and this case has put us through the fucking ringer. Y'all have no idea. First off, the stonewalling. I'm gonna go ahead and give a shout out to St. Tammany Parish for the stonewalling that they decided to do because they do not want anybody to talk about this case.
Mm-mm.
And normally I would tell everybody, please go do your own research so that you know everything that we're telling you is 100% factual. But here's what I can tell you: go ahead and do your research, and you'll find out what I'm telling you is factual about. There's nothing out there.
You're a super fan. I
What?
I I vote for that she shrunk.
I
That's my vote.
shrunk.
Yeah,
I
she
shrunk.
shrunk. She shrunk down to my size.
I did. I did. It's great.
Yeah, that would be fun. We'd have fun.
We would. It would be
Yeah.
fantastic.
Big, tiny little Smurfs, but it's fine. Anyway, um, so
So, anyways, we're just gonna kind of hop into it, and I'm telling you right now, like, take your cocktails and let's go down this like cocktail infused rabbit hole, which it is.
mm,
It is a wild one. It's been crazy from the beginning. When I discovered this one and I brought it to y'all and I was like, "Oh my god, like I really want to talk about this one." And we're like, "Yes." And we're so pumped. And now we're just like, "Man, this is some
I mean,
bullshit."
we mostly do touch cold cases, and pretty much in every situation we've been able to find information. This one, very little information, and there's no actual. I mean, you can't Google image search anything.
No.
You can't find her
The
anywhere.
pictures that
We
we
found a
do
few
have
pictures.
are just like we dug these. I mean, we went through like the deepest depths of the black market to get
Mm,
these. It's
pretty much everybody has those same pictures, though,
oh yeah,
because
it
it's the only ones
everybody.
available. So
And
let's go ahead and introduce who this is.
so let's talk about the fact this case really does have all the makings of a Hollywood mystery movie plot. You're talking a beautiful, highly successful, well-known prosecutor turned private attorney, blonde, divorcee of the mayor of what is a crime-free town. And she
Mm,
is murdered in what is supposed to be the safest parish in the state. And no one knows anything. This case
mm,
is 41-year-old Margaret Coon, an ex-ADA of St. Tammany Parish, still very well-known and respected attorney, is murdered in the most affluent neighborhoods on what is known as the North Shore. Bo Shin was the
and
first.
what time would it have been?
That's the crazy thing, man. Nailing down this timeline, y'all. I worked for this timeline, and the most that I can come up with is the coroner deemed her time of death at 8:30 p.m. and she wasn't
Mm,
discovered until the next day at 6 a.m. So it's really up in the air to say like where was she really murdered at 8:30? Because look, I have nailed down the fact that there are multiple sightings of her supposedly, but you have to remember this woman is, um, you know, in the most prominent. And here's Elaine. She's having some technical difficulties with her audio, and so I don't know what's going on with it. But you know what? If I have to, I will be like, when it comes time to dissect everything, I'm gonna be like, here, you come over here and take my spot. I'll give it to her.
mhm.
I don't know
Could
what's
always
going on.
trade.
I mean, we've just had some technical like it's like
Mm,
I swear to God, it's like Saint Tammany really is like stonewalling us through somebody's stonewalling us
maybe.
from the grave.
Oh,
It's
she just
serious.
yeah.
So this is 41-year-old Margaret Coon. She's the ex ADA, right? And she is killed in Beauchene, which is the first neighborhood in the state of Louisiana to ever have gated entrance with security. Uh,
Mm,
it is I mean, this place is just breathtaking. I love Beauchene. I've been there more times than once. Um, and there is nothing that compares to it, man. This place is like these massive sprawling homes. Like it's that rich southern charm that you would read, in a
mhm,
novel. And Beauchene is in Mandeville, Louisiana, on the North Shore, and it is said to have been the place for the finest living, and it still is. Beauchene hosted, even at the time, private gated security, condos, two golf courses, indoor and outdoor tennis courts, three swimming pools, one is adults only, a state of the art exercise facility, and a clubhouse featuring an award winning chef in
mm.
the full service restaurant. It has a marina. And you cannot forget the most breathtaking thing of all, which is their country club, which is an
Oh,
old
yeah.
antebellum plantation style home that they've turned into this beautiful clubhouse. It's spread out. It's over 1,000 acres of beautiful forestry. Some of these trees are on the historic registry. It is literally what you would think of when you think of like that rich Southern money, debutantes and ladies in furs and
Mhm.
gentlemen in their tuxedos sipping the finest champagne, and these
Let me
women are
see, I
dripping
think
in
I
diamonds.
think I got a picture of Beauchene's
It's
country club. Like,
beautiful.
yeah,
Beauchene
little.
actually translates to beautiful oak,
Mhm.
um, if you translate it.
There's their country club there.
And that's their new country club that they just
Mhm.
added on, and all those things. They kept some of the originals, but you know, knowing how even to this day, I mean, that place is tighter than Fort Knox to get into. Like if you're
Mm,
trying to go through the gate, you have to show your ID. You have to, um, man, you got to give a blood sample. You got to give a life story. They want your family's medical history. Like you're not just coming in the gate of this neighborhood. And I want to make it clear, it's always been that way. Okay. And being over in St. Tammany Parish, where it's still the place. You move over there. It's only 40 miles or so from New Orleans across Lake Pontchartrain, and it's said
mm.
to be where you come to get away from the riffraff and the rising crime of New Orleans and Orleans and Jefferson Parish and the surrounding areas. Nothing bad happens in St. Tammany,
Right.
but that's a lie because something bad did happen.
Mm.
Margaret Crane would actually meet the end of her life on an evening jog on February the 19th, 1987. And to this day, her murder is still one of the state's longest running crime mysteries that's unsolved.
And I just have to say, I find it so disturbing because she was a district attorney.
Yes.
The very own, life and the heart of a county there, the district attorney. Obviously, I think everybody knows, they think the same thing we did initially. Somebody she prosecuted, they came after her.
I
But
was
there's just
really,
so many other twists and turns. Um,
oh my God.
one of the
So,
things that go ahead, I'm sorry.
no, when you're talking about the twists and turns, I was thinking, like, we never thought when we started doing this we were going to run into that. Like we
Right.
were really thinking this was going to be like one of those. It's the good old boy system. It got her, and then the more stuff that I'm like, maybe not. I don't. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like it's just been like one crazy adventure after another. And when we get into the dissecting part of it and all this, because I really need my pathologist over here. So what I'm probably going to do with her is I'm probably actually going to switch and let her have my spot, and I'm going to go over there And, we're just gonna have to like kind of improvise because we were having some difficulties. But you know what? You're talking about the twists and turns. One of the things that blew my mind was the amount of people that had stories and
Mm,
theories, and then it just switched in the middle of like all of it, you know? And w- this woman is talked about like almost like idolized. Okay.
mhm.
She's not, it doesn't seem that she would have enemies uh, per se. And sometime around 8:30 p.m., this 41-year-old attorney put her dog on a leash and did what she normally does every day. She went for her afternoon jog.
Evening,
She
maybe.
left her
Yeah.
condo. Do what?
Probably afternoon, evening. Yeah.
No, yeah. If you are familiar with the weather in South Louisiana, you know
Mm,
you don't jog during the day. It is
right.
sweltering even in fucking February. The humidity
Mm,
is brutal. But
mm,
she left her condo. Now her condo is located at 123 Grand Chenier Drive. Okay. So Chenier Drive is where all of the nicer condos had just been built. You had homes and then the back was condos. The next morning, her body was found a half mile from her condo. At 600 North Boshin Drive. Now, North Boshin Drive is the main road. It's the busiest, most traveled road in this neighborhood. Okay. It is the main entrance in, it's the entrance to your country club. It is the entrance to go around the neighborhood. I mean, it's literally the central street of this place. Okay. And even through the years now that it has grown and blown up and they've added more and you have just this crazy amount, it's still the main fucking road.
right.
Um, but her Afghan hound Charlene was still on her leash and was actually guarding Margaret's body so that no one could get near her. She was about
Mm,
25 to 30 feet off of the road, and she
mm.
was directly across the street from the golf cart barn. And she was like wedged in between. It's like tennis courts, the golf course, the golf cart barn. I mean, she's in this central area where everything around you is active. Okay, everything.
That's weird.
Um, she was discovered by a resident of Beauchene a little after 6 a.m. on Friday morning, February the 20th of 1987. He was actually pulling out his driveway headed to work, and he saw something lying on the side of the road and realized very quickly that that wasn't something, that was a body. Um,
Mm,
so her dog's still there. He sees the dog. So he pulls back in his driveway and he runs inside immediately. He calls the security at the front gate. Now, to me, I'm like, I probably would have called 911. I probably wouldn't have called gate security, but
I
hey,
agree, but
I don't understand that part, but whatever. He called somebody, so that's a plus.
well, at least he called someone. Yeah.
Right? But it wasn't even, so he calls front gate security and he says, "Hey, there's a woman laying over. There's a body. I couldn't tell it was a woman at the time, but hey, there's a body laying over here. Like there's a person. This isn't normal." So a few short moments after that, the call from the resident St. Tammany Parish, a patrol duty deputy named Danny Jenkins was the first
Mm,
officer on scene. And originally, the dispatcher radioed out and said there was a woman lying on the ground. Dog won't let anyone near her. Woman appears to be 10-7, which anybody doesn't know, that is the code for deceased. And
right.
initially, the complaint was that someone had been hit by a vehicle in the neighborhood in a hit and run. So when Danny Jenkins arrives on scene, he's like, there's nosy neighbors trampling the area. They're walking around, they're standing here. But that's not even the worst of it. Okay. So they're already contaminating what would later be discovered as a crime scene.
Well, yeah.
But Jenkins being the first law enforcement officer on scene, firefighters are already there. Okay. And now her
Mm,
dog, this large Afghan hound, beautiful dog, is refusing to let anyone near his mom's body, right?
well,
So
yeah.
what does the fire department do in their genius plan? They spray the dog with a fucking fire extinguisher and tie the
Wow.
dog to the tree, and they just trample all over the scene, get into the body. Okay, so what any evidence that could have probably been there, you just
Mm,
between the
yeah, you
nosy
destroyed
neighbors
it.
and now you've sprayed them with a fucking fire extinguisher because that
Mhm.
makes perfect sense. Um,
Totally.
so Danny Jenkins says it was immediately obvious this woman was not a victim of hit and run. Her clothes are intact. Um, and upon approaching her, he realizes this is most definitely a homicide. So he radios back in for a detective and for crime scene to be en route. So at 7:06 a.m., Detective Ed Baroni arrives on scene. And his initial report, he stated that he observed a white female with blonde hair lying face down in an area that's like by some pine trees about 25 feet off the road.
Mm.
And he says the victim is wearing brown jogging shoes, red jogging pants, and a white shirt with a massive blood stain on the back. So obviously, she's not been a victim of a hit and run. So, and also remember this now, Baroni is on scene as the detective. She is an ADA. Okay. She is face
Mm.
down.
Okay.
Now, he's taken in the scene, and a neighbor identifies her as Margaret Coon. And Baroni is just absolutely like floored. I mean, he's like, I've worked with this woman, has no idea it's her. She's face down. He hasn't moved the body. Plus, she's been sprayed with a fucking fire extinguisher because,
Mm.
that made so much sense.
And would
Um,
that wash DNA away?
you know what? I don't know. And it's an Elaine question. I mean, I really need her for that.
Just
Um,
lean in. Lean
it would
in, Elaine. Just
lean in
lean
and
in.
answer.
Just sit on
Would
Nikki's lap. It's fine.
would a fire extinguisher wash away, like spray it, like in a spray? Would it wipe away DNA or contaminate? It would contaminate it, but it
Mm.
wouldn't make it like go away.
What about water? Like just straight water, make it go away?
Yeah, I mean that
Wash it
that would
away. I'm
probably
sorry.
it definitely would be less contaminating if not.
Yeah. I don't
um,
know.
but he had worked closely with Margaret on a number of cases, and now he's like, I know this woman, and I'm looking at her dead on the ground.
Hmm.
And so her body is, and I found this really weird. I'm not gonna lie, this part was really a little strange to me. Her body was transported across Lake Pontchartrain to Orleans Parish coroner's office.
That's
Okay,
weird.
yeah. So while Margaret is being transported to Orleans Parish, the officers are now wrapping up, what they can at the crime scene and the contaminated shit. Um, and the go into her condo. Like, let's see what's going on in her condo. She's dead on the side of the road. She lives in this neighborhood. So they go to her condo at 123 Shanae Drive. And, they're looking to see maybe is there foul play in the home? Was maybe she kidnapped out of her house? Was she thrown here? There's nothing out of place. Nothing at all. The only thing that they remotely even noticed or even took from her apartment were two martini glasses in the living room. But nothing's out of place. There's no struggle. There's no
Hmm.
foul play. There's no signs that anyone's, kicked her door in. Nothing. So, of course, they're talking to people in the neighborhood about her. They're talking to her friends. They're doing these interviews. That's their job.
Right.
And you know what? Everybody just talks about her like she's too good to be true almost. Um, almost like a unicorn. She
Mm.
defied all the odds. She became a Louisiana trial lawyer in the 70s. Um,
Wow.
she's hired in 1980 by the DA's office in St. Tammany. She's the only female in the DA's office, and she found her calling. She specialized and focused in sex crimes and crimes
Mm.
against children.
Wow.
And dude, she prosecuted dozens. I mean, you have to think about how
Mm.
many people of
Wow.
violent offenders, who could have left the courtroom with a grudge. And
Oh yeah.
even so, and here's the thing, she even prosecuted what is still to this day the most infamous case to ever happen in St. Tammany Parish, Louisiana. And it's the case of Robert Lee Willie and Joseph Vaccaro, who were both found guilty, one being sentenced to death and the other life without the possibility of parole. This case would go on to inspire the book and later the movie known as Dead Man Walking. Dude,
Oh,
she
that's
was
right.
fucking
Yeah.
fearless in court. Okay. She
Hmm.
didn't care. Like she is here to do her job and basically, you know what?
Hmm.
I don't really care. She doesn't have there's no thought to her doing anything, right? And this is Margaret. She's beautiful. That's her Afghan hound, Charlene. One of the
Yeah.
only pictures that we can find of her.
Mhm.
Um, but detectives, are like, the only other thing that they found or was a book called The Denial of Death by Ernest Becker. And it is literally a book about a man's refusal to acknowledge his own mortality, which it's really crazy that Margaret had heavily underlined that particular portion of the novel. So they
Mm.
took the book, they took 2 martini glasses. That's it. That's what they've gotten. Now, Margaret's neighbors, an elderly couple, tells the police they saw her the night before around 8:30 p.m. They told the officers they were
Mm.
coming back from dinner. They noticed her coming out of her condo, and her husband just says he happened to look at the clock and it was 8:30. But then there are other people that have made these claims and said they saw her jogging. So a country club valet who was working that night said he saw her at 6:57 p.m. Very accurate on the time, by the way. It's very weird.
Hmm. Hmm.
A
That's weird.
babysitter leaving Beauchene that night said that she saw Margaret 2.5 hours later at 9:25 p.m.
What was she doing in all these different periods?
Everybody says that she's jogging. Did this
She
woman run
jogged
for
for that
seven
long?
hours? Like, maybe I'm not.
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
And
Mm-mm.
so, even crazier though, is that multiple people said that they saw Charlene, her dog, wandering around the tennis courts between 7:15 and 7:30 that particular night by
I don't buy
theirself.
any of that at all because,
And so, but
yeah.
now Sunset, I went and looked this up. I had to know because Beauchene didn't have street lights back then. They didn't get street lights until,
Mhm.
you know, probably 10, 15 years ago. Uh, Sunset was at 5:51 that night. So that would mean that all of these sightings of Margaret would have been in complete dark. There's no street light. So it's kind of hard to say, was it really her? Because Beauchene has people that jog all hours, afternoon, mornings,
Mhm.
evenings, lunch. I mean,
Mhm.
jogging is something like these people really enjoy their running. Okay. I don't know what they're running from,
Yeah.
but they are
Something.
enjoying it. Okay. So did they see Margaret or did they just see a person jogging with a dog? Did they really see her or, but these people are like, I saw her at 6:57 precisely.
Yeah, I don't know
Why?
about that.
That just seems very,
I
I don't
don't really
know.
when I see people or come across someone, I don't look at my watch and look at the exact time, I don't
No,
look
like if I'm
to
walking down the street and I see somebody walking, I'm not going to be like, oh, it's that time. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not paying attention to that. I'm going to be the world's worst when they interview me for my debut on ID channel.
at
I'm going to be
at
like, I don't know what time it was, but they lit
at
up a room.
for me, yeah, right? For me, at best, I might be able to see it was like the 4 o'clock hour because I don't always know. I don't,
Exactly.
pay attention to the time. I
I'm
mean,
not even kidding. I'm
I'm
literally
always
going to be
super
like,
busy anyway, so yeah,
I'm just going to be like, well, I know they lit up a room.
right, there you go.
As long as you
Um,
can say that, that's why they were murdered. Um, but what we do know is that about 12 hours after she's been spotted by multiple people in these different areas, so approximately 12 hours to 16 hours later, Margaret's body is being examined at the Orleans Parish Morgue, like at the morgue.
mm,
And the coroner's report states, now I had to do some, look, the shit I had to do to pull this off and get this. I
uh-oh,
made more calls, and let me tell you, the stonewalling is fucking real. The coroner's
okay.
report states the body is one of a well developed, slim white female appearing somewhat younger than the stated age of 41, which means that she was in bomb ass shape. She
Mm,
was active in yoga and jogging. She loved to run, blah, blah, blah.
mm,
The body is cool to the touch, not previously refrigerated. Leaves and twigs litter the hair and clothing on the body. The medical examiner determined in his report and stated that Margaret had been stabbed in the heart with a 7-inch knife with enough force to shatter one of her ribs. The final anatomic findings are stated as a single stab wound to the left posterior lateral chest, perforation of the left lower lobe of the lung, and penetration of the left ventricle of the heart. Judging by the scene, he concluded that she collapsed from the stab wound and crawled 15, maybe 25 feet before completely bleeding out and taking her last breath. And he said it would have been a matter of minutes at most. I mean, like she never knew it hit her, if that makes sense. Like it just,
mm,
um, I mean, this woman literally is like, dude, I'm living my best life. I'm running through this super nice neighborhood with all these multi-million-dollar houses, and now I'm dead, and nobody knows
Yeah,
a fucking
no.
thing.
Mm-mm.
Now the autopsy, here's the thing, never found any defensive wounds, no signs of any SA, um,
Right.
and $100,000 worth of jewelry between her rings, her earrings, her
Mhm.
necklace, her bracelets. $100,000 worth of jewelry left
And
on the
she's still
body.
wearing it, yeah.
Um, but the coroner did list her time of death as 8:30 p.m., which says, okay, so maybe somebody did see her at 6:57, but I don't believe anybody saw her at 9:25.
Right.
Maybe they did see the dog at 7:30, but where was she if her time of death? So that was
Mm,
a little iffy to me. Like, did any of
yeah, I
these
don't
people actually
know about
see
it.
anything at all, or did you just see somebody running with a dog?
I
Um,
don't buy their
it's that
times, you know.
timeline is hard for
Mm-mm.
me to buy.
Yeah, I don't I think people might have been off in what they saw, especially if
Yeah,
there's no street lights and, there's no ability to actually determine if it was her or not. So I don't believe that, and in the 80s and stuff like now, there's no excuse. Like you pull out your phone, you look at your
yeah,
smartwatch, you look at the car radio. Back
yeah.
then it could happen. And when, they're like, oh, maybe it was her. I think it was her. So
Well, and you know what?
yeah.
During the investigation, the detective Baroni is just like, what I don't understand is that it's the busiest street in this neighborhood. Okay, she's over here. There's a driving range. There's a golf cart barn. There's tennis courts. There's other night joggers. Not a single eyewitness, but these people supposedly saw her.
But no one saw anybody stab her.
But
I
no
know it's
one
very
saw this
strange.
woman get stabbed, and she laid here until 6 a.m. and no one saw a
Mhm,
thing. But all these people are
mhm.
jogging. Um, so during the investigation, Margaret's ex-husband, who is the mayor of Mandeville, Louisiana, who was said to have been mean and abusive towards her, not so much physically, but very mentally and emotionally abusive. This man would like give her the silent treatment for weeks and like leave her notes. And, he walks in one day and is like, I want a divorce. I'm going to med school. Fuck off. And so she's like despondent and
Wow.
distraught. And then he comes back and he's like, I want to get back together. And she's like, no, I'm good. I've
Yeah,
moved
no.
on. So he's
No, thank
questioned because obviously the first thing you're going to question and look at is the spouse or
you.
ex-husband.
Mhm.
And you know what? He has 100 ways to prove his alibi. It's ironclad. He had a receipt from a gas station that put him uh in Lafayette, way the fuck away from Covington. He had had dinner and the waitress remembered seeing him. So he's just ironclad. So they've ruled out her ex-husband. Now, what I couldn't get a copy of, and I think it's really weird, is even a redacted copy of his statement. And I could never find proof that he really was questioned, but multiple people said he was. We have to go with that.
Right.
Now, Irma Alleman, which was Margaret's friend, they started out, she was her manicurist, and then they became really, really good friends. In the
Mhm.
beginning, was like, y'all need to be looking at her ex-husband. This dude was a fucking
Mhm.
asshole. And afterwards, she's like, no, I don't think he did it. Multiple people were like, he was too devastated over her death. Like,
Mhm.
this man was broken hearted. He realized like he had fucked up and now she's dead and it's too late to fix it.
Mhm.
But then Margaret was also, what a lot of people didn't know, was dating a young dentist, a periodontist who had a private practice on the North Shore named Dr. J. Fagan. Now, upon investigating, the authorities also discovered this is a little bit of a complicated relationship and there's a complicated backstory because Dr. Fagan is still technically married, although newly separated from his wife Brenda.
Whoops.
Um, yeah.
Oops.
So multiple people have said that although they were separated, Brenda still came around, often not invited,
Oh.
not completely unannounced. And
Mhm.
so Margaret had to hide in the closet. She'd had to wait in the car for her to go away. Actually, she told one of her friends that Brenda would crawl through this man's windows to see if Jay was with another woman.
Oh.
And so Dr. Fagan and Margaret argued over his, kind of refusal to already like just go ahead and go through with the divorce.
Mhm.
And it took a toll on Margaret's mental health, something you didn't talk
I
about back
bet.
then.
Oh,
And
no.
they would go through these phases where it would be like a breakup, and then she would go back to her friends a few days later and be like, "He's so great, and I love him so much." Like,
Oh
it was
god.
that toxic red
Yeah.
flag. I can't leave him because I left
Oh,
my
yeah.
fucking burned CDs in his car. Like,
Yep.
it was that toxic type of relationship. Um,
Hmm.
so of course now they have
Uh,
to question Dr.
yeah.
Fagan and his wife Brenda.
Ooh, you got a comment
And
there.
oh, what do we have? That'd be our super fan. He loves the ears.
Mhm.
The ears are his favorite part.
Mm.
They always are.
All right, none of your kink on the internet here.
I know. We save that for our paid
Yeah,
page.
yeah, right. Join the Patreon, guys. No.
Join
Uh,
to see the real kinky side of cocktails and crimes.
all right. Anyway, back to you.
Um,
Back to what you're saying.
but they would argue, they'd end up back together. It's toxic as fuck. And so he told the police during the question, and he said, he had spent the night with her the night before she went for her jog and ended up dead. They spent their night in the living room drinking martinis and by a fire, and he said there are cigarette butts in the house, and those are mine as well. And he said, they slept together that night. He spent the night at Margaret's, and he left the next morning going to work, and that would be the last time he would see her. So, but they had actually scheduled to take a trip to Florida the weekend that Margaret was murdered. They were going to go, and she was going to meet his parents for the first time.
Mm.
So, after they spoke with him, then they talked to his wife Brenda, and he said that the night of Margaret's death, he was with his wife Brenda. Brenda says he was with me and I was with him. So unless these two are colluding and have
You're lying.
orchestrated the most perfect of crimes, and it seemed that Brenda was extremely shocked by finding out about this affair. It was a
Mhm.
confirmation that she had suspected that Jay Fagan had been with other
Mm.
women, but she didn't know this for a fact. So the
Mhm.
cops are like, "Yeah, I don't really think y'all are smart enough, and we're gonna rule y'all out."
Right.
you know and then they start looking at, okay, maybe this is a disgruntled, somebody that she's prosecuted, and in the process of all that, you have a cop named Charles Muley, who was actually featured on an episode of Unsolved Mysteries. um he went missing the day that his trial was supposed to start,
Ooh.
and he was actually years missing. There was a thing where they believed that he'd faked his own death, and a lot of people question, like, did this man who has been missing this whole time come back? This is a man who was a police officer who had worked undercover. He arrested the same person 3 times undercover. That's how good he was at his job.
Oh,
And
wow.
this same dude didn't know it was him. And he was actually on trial for um, some very heinous crimes against some young girls between the ages of like 11 and I think like 16, multiple charges. And Margaret was going to nail him to the fucking cross. All right. And so they looked at him, but he goes missing, and he's been missing this whole time. I find it really hard to believe that this man would like come out of the woodwork, kill her, and then go back into hiding when he's been hiding this whole time and nobody knows where he's at. Like, I wouldn't risk
Yeah.
that. But when
I
he
don't
did
think so.
finally get arrested after being featured on Unsolved Mysteries, they were like, there's speculation that you killed Margaret Coon. And he was like, dude, what? Like, he was very shocked. So
Mm.
it doesn't appear that he was the guy that did it either. And then there's been multiple false confessions in this case. There was a famous serial killer, Henry Lee Lucas. He came through Louisiana, and he says that he killed all these people. I mean, dude, the list of things that he has admitted to doing that have been later determined he didn't do.
Yeah,
If he
that
had done
wouldn't.
all of this, he would be the most prolific serial killer that has ever
Mm,
lived.
yeah.
But he was spending time on private jets confessing to
Yeah,
fake
no.
crimes and not sitting
I
in jail.
I can't wait to tell my theory because I'm pretty sure I already solved it. I solved it, okay?
I think I solved it too. I really do.
Or
Um,
if we have the same person in mind, I think we solved it. But
well, you
you
know,
go ahead because
I
I
have
don't think it's
2. I think I'm gonna throw you for
I
a
only have
loop.
1. Only have 1, but
Um,
go for it.
so then this one detective, Clark Thomas, he takes over her case, and this guy named Craig Rodriguez, he says, I killed Margaret Coon. I was obsessed with her. I did all of these things. But come to find out, like this guy also said that he saw lines and sand traps with things coming out of it and a woman playing golf with human eyeballs. Like he
Yeah.
was obviously not
He was
exactly
tripping balls.
all there. So
Mm-mm.
clearly they were like, "Yeah, I don't really think you did it either, buddy. Maybe we should talk about setting you up over there in the mental ward, though. We can get you a nice comfy room with pillows."
Right?
Um, and so there's still no clues, no evidence, and still no suspects. You've had false confessions. You've had all the people that you would suspect of the making. Disgruntled ex-husband. He's got an alibi. The guy that she's sleeping with and seeing, he's got an ironclad alibi. His wife, ironclad alibi. Um,
Mm.
Margaret's an only child. Her dad really, man, he went to he passed away in 2005, and he always said he never wanted to go to his grave without knowing who killed his baby girl. And it's so
Mm.
sad to me. She had no other family at all, man. And it's really sad. Webster Coon spent an exuberant amount of money. He hired a private investigator named Sandra Davis. She was a family PI. Like she went and caught cheating
Mm.
husbands and shit. And um, you know what? She was like, I'm gonna try to help this man. And the detectives in St. Tammany just stonewalled the shit out of her. They
Mm.
made fun of her. They called her, all this, she was chasing clout basically back then or whatever. And she really was committed to like knowing what happened to this
Helping,
woman.
yeah. Mhm.
And dude, he would write, Webster wrote letters to the newspapers. He wrote letters to the Baton Rouge Advocate. He wrote um and coincidentally, let me just go and tell you, go on and find those clippings if you can. There's not an obituary for this woman. There is nothing. There's nothing
No,
on
I
find
actually
a
didn't come across
grave.
that. I tried. Mm-mm.
Oh, I did too. I even called the archives and they're like, we don't have anything with that name.
Mm.
You mean to tell me the only female DA is murdered and y'all didn't do a fucking story on it? Get the fuck out of here.
Right.
You
Yeah,
did,
right.
where'd it go? And
Mm.
there are some statements that were made in some interviews that I managed to get my hands on that were like, and even some of the people that I spoke with who asked to stay nameless, and I will leave them that way, were like,
Mm.
there is a reason why this case has never been solved. There's a reason. You just aren't looking in
Mm.
the right place. So I ended up getting in touch with the a person. I'm going to leave her nameless. She asked me,
Mm.
she basically was like, I will not come on. I don't really know what happened to cause her to be so scared to
Fearful.
come on and talk because she was very adamant about going and talking. And then all of a sudden she was like, no. Um, Hold on just a second. Do what? Yeah, and I called their archives. Nothing. Can't get a
Mm.
copy of anything. So, like Elaine said, she's like, it's supposed to be at the Picayune, the Dimes Picayune. Can't get them. Not for lack of trying. They won't.
Bizarre.
They're like, "Mm, we don't have those. Um,
Hmm.
but the person that I spoke with sat down and gave me a very, very, very interesting. And this is where I said from the beginning, okay, and Elaine's over here. I really wish she was like right here with me, but Elaine's here, and I'm just gonna tell you, I started building. The first thing I put two and two together on this was, uh, I believed a stabbing is an intimate kill. Okay, the only thing more intimate than a stabbing is
Mhm.
strangulation. Okay,
Mhm.
this was not a. Oh, here we go. We're gonna squeeze. We're gonna make this work. I don't know how we're gonna do
Just
it.
sit on her lap. No.
We are
Just
gonna
sit
make
on
something
Nikki's
work.
lap. It's fine.
Okay, look, see, this is how you improvise at cocktails and crimes. This is
Mhm.
this is how we do it. Um. So, anyways, no, like I said, because a stabbing it's such an intimate crime. It's not. It's definitely not one that's like I don't know you at all, Shank. Like it's
Mhm.
personal. Strangulation, the only thing more personal. And so, with her being stabbed one time, this dog is on the scene, not letting anybody close to her body. That tells me whoever did it knew her, and the dog
Right.
knew this
But that
person.
is why my theory, I think, is correct. But
Well, we're gonna
you
see
go
if we have the
ahead.
same theory. Uh, and I think Elaine has put her theory over here, and she's like holding out on me, and I'm like waiting for her to drop a bomb
Yeah,
because I know that like
I got
Elaine
some
has her
details
notebook.
on
Elaine
I
has her
got some
notebook.
details on who I think did it, and
Elaine has
so
her notebook,
well,
y'all.
who's going first?
I think that it was a woman who I believe the killer was a woman. We're gonna go with that. My profile says that it's a woman that knows her and feels disgruntled by her or feels betrayed by her. And I believe that it is a woman named Judy
No,
who
no, no.
no, I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. So in an interview with Irma Alleman, who by the way was kind enough to talk to me, there is a judge he's still a judge to this day. And what was his last name? Because I won't call him out. I don't even give a damn. This is all public record and don't make a fuck to me. His name is Wallace Edwards. So Judy Edwards, his wife. Okay.
Oh,
Wallace Edwards made very inappropriate comments and made Margaret very uncomfortable in court more than once. He made very provocative comments to her based on her appearance more than once. And so Judy, out of the clear blue sky, okay, Margaret moves to Beauchene after her divorce with Bernard. She moves to Beauchene.
mhm.
She tells Irma Alleman, her best friend, she said, "Girl, I'm gonna have to sell my fucking condo. I'm gonna have to move. You will never believe who my fucking neighbors are." And she's like, "Well, who, girl, who?"
Uh-oh.
And it's Judy and Wallace
Oh no.
Edwards. And Judy starts basically stalking Margaret, like showing up to jog with her to the point that Margaret's like, "I quit jogging. I don't jog anymore, girl. I'm not gonna jog today." And would actually like leave her house, park somewhere, and jog, and then come home. So Irma gets a phone call from another friend that's a mutual of her and Judy's, and she's Judy Edwards would like to talk to you. She's writing a book about Margaret's murder. And Irma's like, "She's not writing a book. What the fuck are you talking about?" Well, she asked if, because Irma was so close to Margaret, if she'd be willing to talk. And Irma's like, "Sure. Peculiar, but okay. How about Irma goes to Judy's house, okay, in Beauchene, and is sitting there, and Judy pulls out all of the case files that are private because this is an open case. She
Hmm.
pulls out every case file. She pulls out the crime scene photos, the autopsy photos, the coroner's report. She pulls out all this stuff and is laying it out there. And she's like, "Do you want to see these pictures?" And Irma's like, "No, I'd prefer not to see my friend dead. I'd like to
Oh
remember her
my
the way
God.
I
Yeah.
saw her last time." And
Right.
Judy goes, "As a judge's wife, you can get your hands on anything. But here's the smoking gun in that." As they're having this discussion, Irma says, "My blood ran cold. The dog, Margaret's Afghan hound, comes walking in the fucking living room." Judy had accused Margaret of having an affair with her husband more than once. And Irma is like, she fucking hates him. She doesn't like either one of you. She definitely wasn't screwing your husband. The
Mm.
dog. Why do you have the dead woman's fucking dog? Irma makes the comment and says, like the dog comes over and sits like up against Irma's legs, and she's like petting the dog. The dog never leaves her side, and she just looks at Judy and she said, "I really wish this dog could talk. She knows who killed Margaret." And Judy was like, "She sure does."
Mm.
Sounds real fucking suspicious to me. I believe
Maybe.
it's a judge. I believe because the
Maybe.
jogging thing, she jogged with her all the
Yeah.
time.
It's a possibility.
I
I don't
believe it.
know. I think Elaine should go next because mine is going to be last.
Okay. You give
What's
us
your
your
theory?
In the research that I've done, there is a lady named Kim that
Oh,
comes into Patricia Curry's life.
oh,
Turns out that Patricia was a lesbian.
So you're
They met
taking,
at
yeah.
Charlene's Charlene's bar, and started dating. Well, Kim goes missing, MIA. Her mother, Faye, starts looking for her, tracks her down, finds her at Patricia's house. She's very frail and fragile, doesn't look like herself.
Mhm.
Come to find out, Patricia locks this girl in her house and will not let her communicate with anybody. Goes to the point of taking the house phone with her when she goes to her residence in Baton Rouge.
Hmm. So Patricia Curry was my pick as well.
The lady goes
And
looking for her
yeah,
daughter, finds her daughter, looks across the street and says, "Oh, that's where this murder happened about a month ago."
right. So that was my
So,
theory as well. I don't know if
See,
Elaine can hear me, maybe
I'm
not.
gonna turn. Hold on. These will actually, I think, turn. Hold on. If you
Yeah,
can turn
she
it,
can't hear me.
it will turn all the way. Ah, there we go. Okay, so you might have to talk a little louder, but she should be able to
So
hear now.
basically, that was my theory as well, Patricia Curry. And the individual that reported her to police was her own daughter. Let me find
mhm.
her name real quick. Is it Janice Alexander? Janice Alexander. She goes to the police about her mom, Patricia Curry. So
Now I'm gonna ask this because y'all, we're not talking about the same Patricia Curry who in like 2016 went into a lawyer's
yes,
office.
Yes.
yes,
Are you fucking kidding
yes,
me? And that
yes.
was
Yes.
She's
all
in
over the
prison
news.
right now.
This
She's actually in
woman,
prison.
are you
So
shitting me? She was like 80 fucking years old
yeah,
and went to the
she
lawyer or
so we'll
bankruptcy attorney.
let's
Yeah.
get there, okay? Let's get there. But I don't know, Lane, you might have the same details I do, but Patricia Curry was hated in Beauchamp, in this community where they live. She's hated. She would go onto the golf course while people are playing golf. They'd hit their balls and she'd walk out, grab the ball, and walk off the whole place with it. She would steal their golf balls.
What?
Where she
Yeah.
would walk her dog and let her dog take a shit right there while people are playing golf. And she would scream and yell, fuck golfers. At one point, she burned into the grass of the golf court. Fuck golfers or something like that. I can't remember.
What?
Mhm.
She was nuts. So completely nuts in
The
this
bitch is
area.
deranged.
Like, it's
Right.
crazy all the stuff she did. A
Mhm.
guy, one of the neighbors let his dog walk through her garden. She pitched a fit and with uh went to his house, and on his garage and dog poop spelled out
I can't remember the
some very
words.
bad words.
Yeah, really nasty stuff, but I can't remember. But yeah, in dog shit. And she basically terrorized this little community for a while. Now, her daughter at one point goes to the police, and her daughter indicates that, like what Elaine just described, where she had locked this other woman up and kept her kind of like hostage. Her
Mhm.
daughter claims she did the same to her. Like, wouldn't feed her properly, locked her up, just abusive to her, I don't remember why she went to the police, but basically she was ranting about her mother, and she said that she believed that she could have committed this murder, that
Okay,
she
but
could have
now
killed Margaret Coon.
I have the only reason I have any kind of like question of that is because considering how this dog is acting when its owner is laid on the
Well,
ground.
but that's
There
the
is
thing.
a lady
Mhm,
named Rose Gleason that was a
mhm,
previous, I guess, girlfriend of Patricia's before Kim got
mhm.
involved with her. After Margaret's murder, she immediately moves to California. So the working theory is that it was a case of mistaking identity because Rose had obviously called Patricia and threatened Kim,
Like
threatened to
Patricia
off
Curry
Kim.
has all these crazy like love triangle
Mhm.
lesbian feuds going on, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it, man,
It's
lesbians are
it's it's
crazy. I love my lesbians.
she's
Y'all are
she's
crazy.
off the rails too. So there is a possibility that it was a mistaken identity. But the other possibility was Janice Alexander, her daughter, stated that her mom was a dog lover and would cross paths with Margaret Coon on the walking trail because she walked her dog. They walked dogs together. What not together, but your dogs are sniffing each other, they get to know you. So
Hmm.
that might be why the dog wouldn't have reacted and why she would have been able to get that close to her. There was an issue. I can't Elaine, do you remember what was the issue between the two of them? They had an issue, Patricia and Margaret, at one point. I can't remember what it was, but they kind of had some kind of a there was a reason why she would have wanted to stab her. Do you remember, Elaine? I don't remember.
Oh, hang on.
Look, I'm telling you, she takes the best notes. I'm like over here reading. I'm like, I'm learning. It's like being in school. I'm like, I'm learning. It's cool.
Right? Yeah, but um
So,
there
like,
was
this
there was some kind of an
woman,
issue.
I mean, look, I'm telling you, I remember in 2016 when this woman
Well,
went to her bankruptcy
right.
and it was on the news, and I was like, because they were like gun
So
toting
she
granny, you know.
mm, and so in 2016 she was trying to file bankruptcy, right?
I think they were going off the basis that Margaret was a lesbian as well,
Oh,
and that
that's
they
right.
had
You're
been
right.
lovers and had a falling out.
Or I also read somewhere that maybe Patricia Curry was into her, but Margaret was like, "No, I'm not interested in you."
Well, see,
And
they asked
just
2 years after Margaret's murder, they questioned Jay Fagan again, the man who was seeing her, and asked if there was like, did y'all have like a weird sex life? Do you know anything about this possible three-way type relationship? Was Margaret a lesbian? And he was like, no, none of that. Like he was completely mind blown to even
but
be asked that question.
regardless of whether her
She was or
sexuality was
wasn't.
yeah, my belief is that Patricia Curry she was hated in that area. I wouldn't doubt that she had may had some altercation with Margaret at one point. She seemed to piss everybody off in the town. So why wouldn't she have pissed, Margaret off? Maybe there was some kind of a weird falling out between them, but not because of the sexual status.
But
Um,
and you know what? Going back to, I would like to have known back then. The one thing I would like to know is like how, because in the, which I have it here, I'm gonna give it to Elaine because she is my pathologist who can like speak on this more than I can, obviously.
mm,
Um, but let's see. Okay, so this is what the medical examiner says. It's all in here, right? And okay, so Elaine going over this. Whoever stabbed this woman had some, I mean, you had some force behind it,
mhm,
right? Clearly, you wasn't going to be, I hate to say it, it's not going to be someone who's petite in stature and,
mm-mm.
it's not going to be somebody that's a little bitty. This just have to have somebody that's got some weight and oomph to them to inflict the damage to shatter a rib. And the other thing is they stabbed up. It's like they knew what they were doing. You know what I mean? Like
That
it
just
wasn't
seems
like
to me
shame.
like
It was like,
rage.
ooh.
That
Yeah.
sounds to me like rage, like pure rage, like anger. So the only reason my money was on the Patricia Curry thing was you were saying in 2016 she went into her basically she had filed bankruptcy. She'd done her bankruptcy situation on her own, took it all the way to like the Supreme Court until it just kept getting tossed out. I'm not exactly sure what she wanted. So she finally goes to an attorney, and that is Keith Kutcher. He represents her, and he's trying to explain to her like you can't go any further. Like
Like this is
whatever,
it.
yeah, this is what you get. And the next thing you know, he is alone in his office. He finds her sitting in his lobby wearing latex gloves, plastic grocery bags on her feet, a towel across her lap, and under the towel is a shotgun. So
This
he,
woman is off the fucking rails.
right. And it's so I don't know what's the words. Suspicious to me that Margaret's body is found across the street from her house. And she's pissed everybody off in the town. She hates everybody. She's really nasty. I don't know. Just a thought.
It's a good working theory.
Well,
I
look,
was very much convinced that it's the judge's wife.
she set fire to condos, put dead fish in
Mhm.
mailboxes,
What?
strangled
Yep.
Rose Gleason.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
This woman is fucking
Yeah.
unhinged.
her
She strangled someone.
actual,
Yeah.
like
Who
in
was
her actual
Rose?
mugshot, she was almost laughing and smiling when
Right.
they arrested her.
Who was
She was
Rose
actually
Gleason
charged with
again?
aggravated assault with a firearm, resisting an officer in possession of a
Yeah.
Scheduled 4
Here you
controlled
go.
substance.
Here you go.
Yeah, like
She is laughing.
she's fucking unhinged.
She threw a Molotov cocktail into the home of a former girlfriend. Lit her next door neighbor's garage on fire. Fired warning shots at the attorney for the Beauchamp Homeowners Association. Threatened to smash her former boss's face in with a lead pipe. Like, this woman
Mhm.
was legit crazy.
And she was not a petite or small person. She absolutely could have had the force to do the job, you know.
That's
Just
kind of
saying.
my thing. Like you had to have some. I mean, you had to have some force behind a stab to go and shatter. I mean, to shatter a rib and to go all the way. I mean, you had to put some oomph behind it. You had to be pissed. Like, there had to be some fucking rage.
It was so much so that people wouldn't talk about it and people wouldn't report her. Nobody would go up against her
People
because
were
they were all afraid
terrified.
of her retaliating.
Yep, they were all terrified of her, like literally
Wouldn't you be
terrified
if
of
this
her.
bitch just trying to burn down your car?
Oh yeah,
I mean,
no, for sure.
These are people that back then are paying. I mean, and it's in the 80s. These are people that are paying what equates now to millions for these condos and these houses and this pristine neighborhood. Like, how the fuck did this woman end up living here? Like, what did she do?
Not
to be
sure
able
where
to-
not sure where that came in.
I
I
feel
don't
like
know.
maybe she was a hitman or something at one time. I'm like,
I don't know. Yeah, no, she was off the rails. And again, there could have been some issue between her and, Margaret, but we just don't know because no one reported anything.
but now with that being said, okay, so with talking about this woman, she lived there, right? And Margaret's found across the street from her house.
Mm,
Okay, here's something that actually happened the night that Margaret was stabbed. Trey Hoffman, who worked at the golf cart barn, he's a teenager, and he worked in the golf cart barn. And what they would do is in the afternoon, they would take the golf carts, they would wipe them down, they would put them on the charger, they would clean them out, make sure they were ready for the next day. Normally, it was a boring, monotonous job. And on the night that Margaret is killed, there is an attack on them. Like him and the couple other people that work in the golf cart barn. Somebody is humming like fucking golf balls and like legitimately trying to inflict harm to these kids. Now, for people that do not play golf, okay, let me explain something. Have you ever seen what a golf ball can actually do to someone when they're hit with it? At the force that these things are flying? So this attack lasts. I mean, they said they were like hunkered down. They're dodging golf balls. At first, like when the first one flew over, they're like, oh, straight. Okay, the second one flies over. They're like, all right. Then like, it starts getting to the point. It's like, they're like, somebody's trying to fucking hurt us, like for real. Like they're trying to legitimately inflict harm.
I'm telling you, I'm telling you, this is not the face of somebody's grandma. She's a cold-hearted killer.
What is better?
That's uncertain granny, right?
I'm feeling like she's a killer granny. I'm thinking she could be like serial killer status.
But that's
Like
the thing.
the golf balls, she could have been the one throwing them. Like,
That's the thing. So they said this attack lasted like 20 minutes. They're dodging. I mean, these golf balls are just flying and they're dodging them. They're like, oh my God, like somebody's trying to hurt us. They can't get out of the golf cart barn and like go inside. I mean, they're like at the mercy of hiding. But then another guy, here's what I don't understand. So there's another gentleman who worked there at the time. His name is David Talley. He says that he chased a man away that night into the woods, and he supposedly saw this man throw a knife. Now the cops have searched and searched and searched that area. They've never found a knife. There was no claim to substantiate anything that this man said, but he swears to this day that he chased a man off. He saw someone. Could not have been a man. It could have been a woman in a black hoodie. It could have been whatever.
Hello, look the face of all right here. Come on, show up. See,
I mean, look at Granny here.
there you go. See, short hair, hoodie on, could have been mistaken for a man.
Exactly. And back then in the
Mhm.
80s, I mean, she'd have been able to probably get a little jog on, you know. She'd been able to move. But this whole golf cart, the golf ball attack at the cart, and then David Talley saying that he chased someone away. They did call St. Tammany Parish. The officer that responded is deceased now, but he gave an interview and spoke out, and he said, I did respond to that, and I patrolled the neighborhood for like 40 minutes after and never saw anything out of place, never found anything. And even the guy at the gate was like, it's probably some kids. No, I don't think kids are humming golf balls 100 miles an hour
No.
trying to inflict damage.
Not only that, you got to remember, like, she was arrested in 2016. She was 78. How old was she in the 80s? You know what I'm saying? Could have been in way more physical shape.
Way more, yeah. I mean, in a shape to where she could move quicker. And you said that she would steal people's golf balls. Maybe she had a collection of these things.
You literally would walk through the golf course and just pick up people's balls right in the middle of their game and walk off with it.
Like, that is how you get beat to death with a golf.
Right? That's what I'm saying. I was surprised I was beat her.
Right.
Or walking your dog through somebody's golf game. They're about to swing and you're like, oh, hold on. My dog has to take a crap right here. Like, what are you even doing on the green? You know?
We don't do that. That's not. You live in a neighborhood that has 2 golf courses and you don't like golf.
And she would literally cuss them out, tell them, fuck you, golfers, burn the grass with those words in it. Just
this woman's
unhinged. So,
but then there was another theory, a working theory that they came up with. I still don't really agree with it, but let's just throw it out there because it was one that was put out there. The office, so the gate security was run by a company called Fox Security. Fox Security was owned by a police officer at St. Tammany Sheriff's Department, and he ended up caught up in a whole bunch of stuff and doing some prison time. And a lot of the stuff that was underhanded that came out was things that revolved around his private security company, which would be Fox Security. And there was a speculation that there was, because Margaret was supposed to be the prosecutor on this particular case. I mean, this woman prosecuted some pretty high up people. And one of the statements that was made, and I still find this, I agree 100% because I know that area so well. And I know my in-laws actually lived, on the North Shore. They lived in Covington. They lived in a very nice, prominent, sprawling, gated neighborhood as well. And when I tell you there's nothing in that neighborhood that isn't questionable, there's a lot of hush hush. It's like the Dead Man Walking case. I implore anyone to go find something that St. Tammany hasn't had scrubbed off the internet about it.
See, that's the thing. Like, if she was a criminal prosecutor, crime in the United States is public record. So
why? But the thing is like St.
Why can't we find any of her cases?
You won't find anything. They're a little bit more open with it now than they used to be. Like, you can actually Google murder in Covington, Louisiana, and actually pull shit up. But I've been with my husband almost 20 years. Do you know it took almost 20 years for me to even know that place, A, had a public school, and B, has a bad part of town? Because when you get to the North Shore and you get to Covington and Mandeville and Madisonville and all this, okay, like the bad part of town in Madisonville is you don't live in a $2 or $3 million house. Your house is worth $700,000. It's still 84 bedrooms and 97,000 square feet, but it's not $1 million. So you're living in the slums.
Right. Yeah.
And then if you get into like where my in-laws live, you have what's old neighborhood part, and then they've added on and they've built on, and now these houses are these houses are 10 and 20,000 square feet. I mean, they're like mansions in Hollywood.
Wow.
And they're multi-millions of dollars. And then okay, hold on 1 second. Just 1 second.
I got it.
Okay.
Mm.
Where's the ladder at? Because the ceiling of my roof just started to fall out. So, but no, like there was in that area, like I'm telling you, I had no idea that there was even a bad part of town. Like the first time that Grant was like, "Here, I'm going to show you the slums," and I'm like, "What?
What?
It exists?" I didn't even know that Covington. Honest to God,
Yeah.
I didn't even know that Covington had a public school because
Mm.
everybody in there they send their kids to St. Paul's and SSA, and then some people let their kids go to Mandeville High, which is literally a public school without. It's a private school without the fucking tuition. Okay, it's full of
Right,
luxury
right.
cars and kids that have no grasp of reality. So when I tell you like the allure of living there and the allure of Covington and Mandeville and Madisonville, and you get over to Slidell, and that's just they call it Slimedale for a reason.
Mm.
Because it's you don't really want to live in Slidell, but
Right.
when you're talking these three main areas, which are all connected to each other, and they're all right here on the lakefront, and they're all waterfront properties, or they're you know for instance, like my in-laws, their house was I could literally pull up the magazines that my mother-in-law's house was in. I mean, it's just insane. And I'm not kidding, dude. You don't hear of crime over there. You don't hear
No.
about, anything bad happening in
Mm.
these areas. So for this to happen and no one to know anything at all, and for no one to even remotely say, "Hey, this seems a little suspicious."
Right.
Nobody is saying a fucking word.
Mm. Yep.
And to this day, there's no, I mean, Webster Coon spent so much money. He owned pecan orchards and he was a cattle farmer and he had money. Okay, like he had
Mm.
money. And he spent buku money trying to find out who murdered his daughter. Never could
Mm.
get anywhere.
Okay.
Sandra Davis, the PI, would get, basically only so close, and then it would be like a dead end here or a false confession, or it would be she would stonewall there. But
Right.
here's why I think that I will stand on this. Margaret was in fear for her life because
Right.
in an interview, she had made her dad take her spare key to her condo a week or so prior, like a week or so, maybe 2 weeks prior. And she had told her dad that she had a premonition of her impending death.
I read that, yeah. And I wondered though, that's why
I think she was being followed or stalked
that's
by
why I
someone.
kind of looked at the Patricia Curry thing because that was her MO to like follow people, stalk them, intimidate them. Again, though, as a big high profile kind of district attorney as she was, any one of her cases could have come back to haunt her,
Exactly.
One of them.
And she was not scared to go in there and be like, "I'm going to put you behind bars." And then on Thanksgiving Day in like 1990, it's like I think it was 90 or 91. Her dad receives a phone call with this long message left on his answering machine from a woman stating that she knew who had killed Margaret, and she wasn't willing to come forward because she would be in fear for her own life. And he actually went as far as putting an ad out in the paper and being like, "Just call me back. I'll never tell anybody you told me. Just call." And this person never called back. Nothing ever came of that. So part of me is like, did somebody, let's just say Patricia Curry with this sick, twisted, did you call and leave a voicemail on this man's message just to fuck with him? She kind of seems like she'd be unhinged enough to do that.
She might be, she might. It's a possibility she would, especially if it was a woman,
And I will, I very much, I do. I believe her killer was a female. I 100%. When I started reading this, I said the things didn't add up for me in the fact that it's a stabbing, and I honest to God believe that her killer is a murderer. Her murderer was a female who knew her routine, knew, was comfortable enough. The dog was comfortable enough to let her
because she knew her, right?
But I still have a hard time with the judge's wife theory because why do you have a dead woman's dog? And you were convinced. I mean, she had a vendetta against Mark. She was
Mhm.
convinced this woman was sleeping with her husband, and now you have the dead woman's dog, and you're writing this book, which, by the way, she never wrote.
Never
By the
wrote it.
way,
Yeah. Figures.
but she's
Yeah.
married to a local judge, and somebody in a statement said, when you go to digging into cases like this, there's a reason. There's a reason why this case has never been solved because people in power. And if anybody knows anything about St. Tammany Parish, the DA, Walter Reed, who was the
Mm,
DA for like 20 or 30 years, is now serving
mhm.
time in prison because the
Yep.
crooked and corrupt nature of the beast,
Yep.
so to speak. So, if the powers that be that didn't want this case to be solved seem to still be in control of that area. And I believe that's part of the reason why this case is never going to be solved. I mean, I'm not going to say it's never going to be solved, but you have no DNA and you have no one
Right.
coming forward. And
Mhm.
Patricia Curry is probably what, in her 80s now?
In I don't know, 78 or something like
Yeah, I
that.
mean, she's not exactly a spring chicken.
Right.
Uh, you know, I don't think anybody's ever going to come and confess and be like, that DA in the 80s, I did it.
Well, like, so I get with the whole judge thing. That's a huge possibility. I don't know. Just reading the Patricia Curry statement, when the lawyer finds her in the office, like, hey, what are you doing here? What's going on? She's like, oh, I'm here to kill you. That's it. Just here to kill you.
I
She was
mean,
very bold about it. So,
I mean, it could have very well been like
and well, that's why I could see her. There was something she said to someone. Can't remember who she was talking to, but she was basically making fun of the fact that, I bet you like in reference to the police department, she was saying, I bet you the little antennas are all up, thinking of a way to try and pin this on me. She was aware that she was looked at, not necessarily a suspect, but she was aware she was looked at. And she kind of poked at it, laughed at it. So,
I mean, yeah, this woman is fucking unhinged.
mm,
She's 100% like unhinged and deranged. I believe that she has all the makings and potential to do it. I'm not even going to argue that theory because I mean, like I said, we all kind of research differently on all of our stuff. I focused on this and I said from the very beginning, you and I talk all the time. And one of the things I told you, I was like, this one has got some craziness in it. And I do believe when I was like,
mm,
I've created my own profile on this. And then coincidentally, in my research, after I told you, in the beginning, I was like, I already have a profile on this. Then a few days later, I actually get in touch with an ex FBI agent who had worked with Sandra Davis,
mm,
and he says my profile is a female, and he said the same thing that you
mm,
said, I said, Elaine said. I mean, we all said the same thing. So clearly, you can narrow it down. Look at the judge's wife. Look at Patricia Curry. One of
mm.
these bitches did it.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, I think it's between one or the other. Who knows? Could be
I mean, it's
one or
just
the other.
there's just no way around it. But you know
Mhm.
what? I truly believe that this case is solvable. Do I believe that it will be solved? I don't know. This one may
Yeah,
become one of the cases that never ever gets closure.
that's too
And
bad.
it's really sad her dad passed away in '05 without ever finding that out. But
Mhm.
um, you know, I my cocktail is empty because this one drove me to
Yeah,
drinking.
mine's completely empty at this point.
So, you know what, guys? I think that we're going to leave this one with y'all to think about. And you know what? If anybody at all has any working theories of their own that we didn't come up with or look at, or something that
Or
maybe
you
you're
heard
like,
something.
you bitches missed this. Hey, email, comment, send me a smoke signal, a carrier pigeon.
Right.
I don't care. At this point, I really want to know. This one is like intriguing, and it is, you know, uh, honestly, it's kind of heartbreaking. This woman died in the middle of the night on a jog
Yeah.
alone, and
Mm-mm.
no one knows anything. People that spoke of her friends are just like, who would
Mm.
want to hurt her? And I'm like, well, a lot
Right.
of people she convicted, I'm sure,
Well, I'm sure. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I don't.
Definitely.
And looking back, trying to get some of her case files or find out, I could never find that she'd ever convicted a female. You know what I mean? Like of any of these crazy crimes.
Yeah,
So
but she might have convicted somebody's man.
there's that possibility too.
Put
But
my man in prison.
I'm laying on either you need to look at the judge's wife and you need to look at gun toting granny. These are the
That's
two that
something, yeah.
really stick out for me. Maybe you should question these
Mm,
people, but
mm.
I tell you
Well,
what,
they
guys.
question Margaret Curry, but yeah, so anyway.
Right, whew, it was a wild. This has been a wild ride. We have been down all the rabbit holes. It has been cocktail infused, and it has been full of the crime. I mean, this is like crime porn. It's so like
Right.
it's true crime heaven over here. But you know what? I have to say thanks to everybody for tuning in. Please go see my wonderful co-host Ann over on Unexplained Realms. Check her out. I will actually be making a little bit of a guest appearance. I think she's working
Mm,
on something on the back that
soon
we're
as we
really
can
excited about.
soon as we can
You
get our
can,
schedules together,
yeah,
then we're gonna do this. So yeah.
also, you can find us and Unexplained Realms on any platform that you get your podcast on: Spotify,
Mhm.
Apple, iHeart, Stitcher. I mean,
Mhm.
anywhere that you get your podcast, we are there. We also have merch. Um,
Mhm.
we still working on our
Head
website.
over, but head over to our socials. It'll take you to
Yes.
the merch.
Check out
So
our socials. Go give us a like if you have any. And if you have a case that you would like for us to look at, talk about, bring up, hey, we're always open. That's how we do end up with a lot of these, is by people going, hey, have you ever heard of this? And we're like, no. And then we end up in these crazy places where we're
right,
like, wow, I didn't see that coming. So if you have something
right.
that's unsolved, or if you have a family member that's been hacked to pieces, or whatever the case may be, hey, we'll
Mhm.
talk about it. We'll look at it. We'll
Right.
see if it's a fit for the show. And I want to give a shout out to our sponsors over at Old Tavern on George Street at 416 George Street, Jackson, Mississippi. Um, Great little watering hole. Definitely go check them out. They are wonderful. Another shout out to Imperial Nutrition over in Byron, Mississippi, on Holiday Rambler Drive. They're great people. That's where I get my loaded teas to fuel me for this research because I need them after a long
Oh
day and a
yeah,
long night.
definitely.
And a huge shout out to our other sponsors over at House Paint Tattoo, in Byram as well. Frankie, you're the best. Mandy, I love you so much. Robert, y'all are great. They're really supportive. They've been super supportive since day one, and couldn't get better people or better artists, award winning, and absolutely it's a party to go over there, man. So like I said, go check out Ann on Unexplained Realms. She's got some really crazy stuff. She's actually done one that's local here not too long ago, and I loved it. I'm
Yeah,
obsessed
that
with
was
it.
fun. That was a lot of fun.
So yeah, we're gonna try to throw something together for a Halloween special. We're hoping to kind of hop on here maybe and do something fun. Hopefully, we're gonna have our friend Mr. William Douglas back on with us and for Halloween shenanigans, and just kind of like have a little bit of a fun night, not a so dark and
Mm.
just gory. But yeah, so like I said, go to our socials, give us a like. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And we will be working on launching a TikTok here real soon. And we are discussing and in the works of quite a few other things that I think you'll find quite interesting. But winter is coming. Get your cocktails and crime hoodies, blankets, all that fun stuff, man.
Mm.
We're here for it. We
I'm
have
gonna order
stickers.
some.
So, and once again, go listen to Ann. Thanks, guys. Elaine had to step away. So, huge
Yeah,
shout out to her. Love her. Sorry for the technical difficulties and the fact that we ran a little late, but you know what? We're still here. Things happen, and it's been a wild ride. So,
yep,
thanks for tuning in, and we will catch y'all again next Friday, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, and possibly here on Tuesday for Halloween. So,
maybe.
maybe.
Bye.
Bye, y'all.